We are live.
I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
Steve?
Is that okay? We're ready to go? Fine.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, fellow St. Benedict the More parishioners. My name is Tom Roberts, a member of the parish, as well as the men's ministry and the Knights of Peter Claver, and also political action chair for the NAACP. It says here I've been muted, Kenny. Okay. I have with me Jason Miller, who works for the Montgomery County Board of Election as a voter registration specialist. You may not be able to see us that well because of our camera, but we really want you to pay attention to what's going on. Let me do one quick thing. Marvin, can they hear me? Because my says it's coming up mute. Can everybody hear me, Marvin? Marvin, can everybody hear me on the stream? I can't hear you. Kenny, how can you tell if people are hearing me or not?
I would only know if they're getting a text. Now, those who are watching live, you're dealing with Marvin on Zoom. This here live.
Okay, you're unmuted now. Hey, Tom, you're unmuted right now. There's a delay, like a 5-minute delay.
Okay, seconds, yeah. Okay, so, but the people on stream can't hear us right now? Okay. Well, good, again, good out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, okay. Let me continue, and someone on stream can't hear me, let Marvin know so he can let Kenny know that we're not coming through. But let me continue on. I had introduced myself and introduced Jason Miller from the Board of Election. He's a voter registration specialist. And as all of you know, the last day to register to vote is October 5th. Voting begins October 6th. Most of you, not all of you, should have received from the Secretary of State the application for the absentee ballot. All of you who are registered voters should have received in early April or early September the application from the Secretary of State for the absentee ballot. So it's a multi-pronged process. One, you have the application. You fill it out and send it in. Two, sometime after October 6th, you will get the ballot. And then you have a choice of mailing the ballot in or dropping it off at the Board of Election. Let's back up and let's look at the absentee ballot form. Often voters make a mistake on the form in several areas. Where it says number 2, date of birth. Some people assume that means today's date, and they put in today's date. The other place where there is a mistake, where they ask for county, they think they're asking for country, and they put USA. And then on the bottom of the form, they need your signature, today's date, the date that you're filling out the application, and at the very bottom, there's a telephone number and an email address. Now that becomes critically important if there's a mistake in the upper body that the Board of Election members can call you or email you for updated information. Jason, anything on that I need to clarify or go over?
No, not really. Most of the times, number 2 is just left blank. So that is a concern. It's just everything that's highlighted is information that we do need. Is that we do ask you to fill in everything that's highlighted on the form.
Okay. And so just remember what Jason said, that if you have the application, it will have highlighted information. Fill in all that highlighted information. But I pointed out the two or three ways that often people make mistake, and those critical because that could delay you getting the ballot.
One other thing.
Go ahead, Jason.
So there is on question 5, that's a 3-part question, but it's a either or. It's either asking you for either your BMV ID number, your state ID number, or the last 4 of your social. If you choose not to send either one of those, then the third box is what you can use, which is a copy of a bill or any of that. So question 5 is one of 3.
So remember what he said, on question number 5, you don't have to fill out all 3. You just need one form of information, either your driver's license or the 4 last digits of your Social Security. You don't need to do all 3, just one of those. Okay. And so now you get the ballot. You will get the ballot sometime after October 6th. October 6th is the first day to begin voting. And so you will get the ballot sometime after October 6th. Now you have several options. And I would encourage you to now think how you're going to vote. Am I going to show up on election day and vote? Or am I going to go to the Board of Election and vote? Decide now. And the third way would be the mail-ins or drop-offs. Once you get the application from the Board of Election, then you have several options. One is to fill it out and take it to the drop box at the Montgomery County Board of Election. 2, put a stamp on it and mail it in as soon as possible. And I think that's averaging, what, Jason, about 70 cents a stamp or so
On the ballot?
on the ballot to mail in.
So the ballot itself is approximately, I believe, 70 cents, so 2 first-class stamps will get it to us.
Okay, so 70 cents or 2 first-class stamps should get the ballot mailed back to the Montgomery County Board of Election. And the third way would be to show up on Election Day and vote. Now, I missed something here. Drop it off to the drop box, mail it in, and then show up on Election Day. Are the 3 basic ways, right?
Or come in and vote.
Oh, that's it. Go to the Montgomery County Board of Election and vote, beginning October 6th. I'm going to vote elect first day. Be one of the first people to vote on October 6th, so I can send the message out to people. Voting begins now. What are the hours of the Montgomery County Board of Election, hours and days to go to the Montgomery County Board of Election to vote?
So those hours, they start on October 6th at 8 a.m. And through October 6th through the 9th, we're open from 8 to 5. October 12th through the 16th, we're open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 p.m. Starting October 19th through the 25th, we're open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then we're open also that Saturday from 8 to 4 p.m. and then that Sunday from 1 to 5 p.m. Those hours will then change again the following week, starting October 26th. We'll be open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Again, Saturday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Sunday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Then the last day for early voting is on November 2nd, which is the Monday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m.
So that's a lot of information, and I'll try to make it as available to us. Marvin, what we could do is take what Jason just said about the hours of early voting and send it out to your mailing list and to Kenny's mailing list and Victor Obasui's mailing list, so people have that information. But it's many, and basically the hours of the day the Board of Election are open, Monday through Friday.
Correct.
Is the days they're open, and then there are 2 weekends when you can vote at the Board of Election. And I'll make sure we get that information available for you, either through an email or through some other form of communicating that to you. But that's if you want to vote at the Board of Election. If you want to show up and vote on Election Day, that option is still available to you. I don't see any questions. Does anyone on the Zoom or the stream have any questions at this point?
Tom, I don't see any questions on Zoom yet.
So,
Okay.
I will,
Hold on.
Anybody that is on Zoom, use the chat feature at the bottom of the screen.
And then I understand, for those of you who talk during Mass, you know how to fill in a question on the stream as well. And Kenny is monitoring that. So if you have a question, you can push it in through the stream chat room, or those of you on Zoom, you can push it in through the Zoom chat room.
so let me,
Jason, go ahead. Jason has another point he wants to
let
make.
me discuss if you do receive an absentee ballot and do choose to go to the poll or come down to the Board of Election and vote without dropping off or mailing in a ballot. That is still your option. If you come in for early voting, you can bring the ballot with you, and we can cancel out the absentee ballot, and you can vote regularly on the voting machine down at the Board of Elections. If you do not vote the ballot and you go to the poll on Election Day, you would then have to vote the provisional ballot. What the provisional ballot is a paper ballot that we separate from the regular ballots. We hold those off till 10 days after the election, and we count those after all the absentee ballots have been cast and counted. So we're just checking to make sure you, one, didn't return the absentee ballot, or you didn't go to another place and vote.
And that's worth repeating, because I've often heard people say, I asked for the absentee ballot, now I want to go to vote either at the Board of the Election or vote at my polling place on Election Day. And what we're telling you is that if you have the application, you still can vote at the Board of Election.
The ballot.
Say it
You
again?
have the ballot. If you actually have the ballot,
Right. If I actually receive the ballot,
it's the application.
I'm sorry.
The ballot.
If I actually receive the ballot, I can then go vote at the Board of Election.
Right. You can, we will cancel that ballot out, that absentee ballot out, and allow you to vote like you're voting at a regular polling location.
Okay? And then the other question is the other one Jason answered, and that is if I have the application, if I have the ballot, and I decide, as many people have, that I'm going to show up and vote on Election Day, then you have to vote provisional ballot. That ballot is still counted. It's just a different process you go through at the at the polling place. So if there are any questions on that, please make sure you ask those again of Jason or myself, but those are the ones that often come up. Okay. If you have not, and I want Jason to help me back me up or correct me on this. If you received probably a month or so ago a notice from the Secretary of State saying that you are on the last call or the last chance to do something, or you will be taken off the voting rolls. That we call that purging. You have to do something in the November election, and by voting in the November election, you will be taken off the purge rolls. If you do nothing, you will be taken, if you don't vote, you will be taken off the rolls as a registered voter. And I will simply say to you, and Jason, tell me if this is wrong, I will simply say to you, if you didn't get an application for absentee ballot from the Secretary of State, what does that mean?
That means you are not either registered or you're not registered at the current residence in which you're residing at.
And so if you didn't get that application for absentee ballot, that means one of two things: that you're not a registered voter, or you're not a registered voter at that address. And the way to remedy that is to change that by October 5th.
5th, yeah, so the registration deadline is October 5th. As long as the registration is postmarked November 5th by midnight, we will register all the registrations that come through. So you can either register by paper or you can register online. If you choose to register online, you can go to www.voteohio.gov. and you can simply update your registration that way. You cannot register online as a new voter on the website. We have to have a hard copy of your signature on file, so the website won't allow new registered voters to sign up on there. You would just need to drop off a registration form at either a library, mail it into the Board of Elections. If you go update your driver's license, you can do it at the BMV. You can mail it to the Secretary of State. There's different avenues, just as long as it's postmarked by November 5th.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about that, Jason. What you need to take to the Board of Election, or what identification do you need to have to vote on Election Day?
On Election Day, so there's multiple forms of identification. Again, most people default to the state ID, the driver's license, the VA ID that the recorder's office gives out, that's acceptable. A bill with your current residence within the last 12 months is acceptable. There are different avenues of forms of identification that we use. It's just the most common ones are the state IDs.
So the state IDs, either my mother doesn't drive, so she has a state-issued ID, but those of you who have driver's license, that's another state-issued ID. And I have here my DP&L bill. That's another form of ID.
Yes.
Okay.
Cell phone bill also serves as a form of ID.
Okay.
A government document, a fishing license serves as a government ID.
Here's a critical issue that I think parents who have students in college need to be thinking about. And those students need to find out where they're registered to vote. Let's say, for example, my son or daughter goes to Central State University. Where are they registered voters? And I would assume that many of them are registered to vote in Wilberforce there at Central State. Now, they've got a choice to make between now and October 5th. They've got to decide to change that registration to home, or they've got to ask for an absentee ballot to vote on campus. What are your thoughts on that, Jason?
So they still can vote. They can still be registered at home and have the ballot sent to them at school. That's their choice. They can, with Central State being so close, they can actually come home and vote. The students that I talk to that are away at college and they ask me, I tell them to register in the city in which they are returning to, because those are the issues that will affect them when they come back. So if you're at Wright State or at Central State and you live in Dayton, you can still be registered in Montgomery County, and you can either come home or get the application the ballot sent to you at your college location outside the county.
So parents and students, please have this conversation, because October 5th is right around the corner. And we don't want those students to be left out and not be able to vote. Make that determination, because many students are taking classes from home remotely, and the chances of them returning to Central State or wherever they're at, Bowling Green or UD or wherever, will be very slim. That's at least my gut reaction, but this is a conversation that I'm encouraging college students to have, and parents, if you have students away at school, I would encourage you to have that conversation, because this is a very critical election, and we don't want students to be left out because they haven't thought about where I'm going to vote. And so the first thing I want you to understand is, if you have not received the application and you know you haven't voted in the last 5, 6, and 7 years, you will be taken off the rolls if you don't vote in November. I would check now your voting registration status. I would check now so you can make sure you're not purged from the rolls. And the second thing is, I would encourage college students and parents to have this conversation about where they want to vote. It's critically important that you have this conversation before October 5th.
And just one to add on to that. So technically, to not be removed from the roll, you do not have to vote. You just have to show a voter intent. A voter intent is basically filling out another registration card, signing a petition, anything that shows that you're still an active participant in the voting process shows voter intent. So if you do not vote in this election, send in another registration form. That starts your clock all over again.
So you heard what Jason said, but I'm going to say vote.
I will too,
I'm going to
vote.
say vote. Just to go pretend and go through the motions is not helpful to us in November, but as he points out, technically, you just have to show you've done some action. And asking for the ballot is enough, but I'm going to encourage you to turn that ballot in or actually show up to the Board of Election to actually vote. Anything else you can think of that will be critically important? I'm not getting any questions, so I'm not sure if everyone is understanding what we're saying or if there are some issues they just don't know how to ask the question.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, just one other thing is with the information of absentee applications being mailed out by not only the Secretary of State, they've also been mailed out by third-party mailers, which means your voting record is public information. So anything that is asked from third parties is given, so they solicit voters to participate as well. So even though you've gotten this application and you sent it in back into the Board of Elections, you still can be getting mailers for you to participate. We only need one application. I mean, two won't hurt, but if you're in there, you're in there. Do not worry about the other ones coming because those are, like I said, third-party persons asking you to participate. The only thing, we only send out information that is predicated on what you request from us or if there's any misinformation on the application itself. As long as it's asking you to return that information to 451 West 3rd Street, it's a viable form. It's as long as they're not asking you to send it to somewhere other than your local county Board of Elections.
And that's a critical point because I got a call on the day, three people, and two from the parish called me in regards to, I got an application from somebody from the Secretary of State. They want to make sure it's legit. And what Jason is saying, you will get that. You also will get one from a third party. Just send one of those in. They're all legit, but let's don't get confused or cry some kind of conspiracy. Most of those are legit, but if you got the one from the Board of Election, they should be that should be adequate. Two questions, Jason, and one. I had a conversation with Steve Harshman at the Board of Election about this, but a question about safety at the precinct on Election Day.
All right, so safety at the precinct is the top priority as of right now. We will have the social distancing, so not all machines will be available. The two side machines are available. The two front ones will not be because of the social distancing. We'll have the paper option available for those that do not want to, that if the line gets backed up, they can do the paper option. We have hand sanitizers. The poll workers will be in masks. We've covered every basis as far as social distancing, keeping it safe. You'll be given your own pen when you show up to vote, so you don't have to touch the screen. It's a stylus pen, so you don't have to touch the monitors, touch any of the screens. We're doing everything possible. The state and the federal government have provided ample amount of money for us to get the personal protective equipment. So I feel comfortable. I worked it for the special election that took place in August. It's pretty safe. I mean, if you're going to the grocery store, if you're going out in public, it's probably safer than those facilities.
And so you get a prize, you get a gift.
Yeah,
you get
a
to take
pen.
home a style or a pen. It says Montgomery County Board of Election on it.
Yes, it
so
does. Yes,
you
yes, it does.
get a gift on Election Day.
And if you want to be party specific, it's blue and red. So you
Blue
can
and
pick
red.
your color.
Okay. So I'm about 30 minutes late in reminding people, if you want our members who are watching, this stream is available to anybody who wants to get this information. So if you have a cousin or a niece or Pookie, who you think needs to hear this, please let them know. We'll go on for another half hour, as long as people are interested in sowing questions. But this is an intent for our church to share this kind of information with anybody who's interested, not just St. Benedict the More. So if you know someone who needs to hear this information, please have them to go to our stream, St. Benedict the More stream, as we do on Sunday, and we'll probably be going for another half hour. So we'll repeat some of this information, but it's critical if they're interested and you're interested in sharing with them that they do that. Jason, the question about people knowing their precincts. Has there been any precinct changes since the primary?
Yeah, yes, there has been numerous precinct changes due to facilities that we aren't allowed in, and then due to facilities that just did not want to participate anymore. Usually, well, what will happen is by law, we do send out acknowledgments to precinct change notices to all registered voters that will be affected by that. You normally would get that about 10 days to 2 weeks prior to the election.
Okay, so people two weeks away will know if their precincts changed.
Yes.
And they'll get it in a form of a postcard or a letter or something?
It's in a letter form now. The acknowledgement portion has switched over to a letter form, so they will get it in a letter style that will tell them where their polling location has been changed to.
Okay. And as I understand, some of those were like nursing homes.
Yes, the state disbanded us from using nursing facilities. Some schools chose not to participate. Not schools, but private institutions.
schools.
Yeah. So, but we will notify you. We always do. We just look for it around 10 days prior to the election.
Okay. The other thing is, for example, we were talking about nursing homes, and someone brought up Friendship Village. And it's my understanding that, lack of a better term, the recreational person or the person who does activities will be in charge of bringing in a D and an R. And this always happens. When you vote, in any case, when the Board of Election used to go to the nursing homes, they always took a Democrat and a Republican. And those two individuals gave you the opportunity to vote in that nursing home. It's my understanding that Friendship Village will be doing this for most of the residents at Friendship Village?
So, from my understanding is they have basically sworn in representatives from facilities to represent Ds and Rs to handle that portion of the assisted living. We did used to go into the facilities,
Right.
but with the COVID going on, it's probably better that they handle that situation. So, from my understanding, that is what's going on at Friendship Village and maybe some other facilities as well.
So if you have family members who are in nursing homes, have them check with their director or activities person. The question about Friendship Village came up in a meeting a few weeks ago, and they were able to find out that a D and an R, as Jason just pointed out, are deputized to represent the Board of Election in that voting at Friendship Village. And soon it will happen elsewhere. And going back to the polling places, Jason, is it true that they can determine their voting place by going to www.voteohio.gov?
No, if you need so the most up-to-date information they would need to come to the Montgomery County website, and that is Montgomery County, mcsafevoting.com.
Okay, but the other one is equally,
The other one leads you straight to the state's website.
Okay.
I mean, it will get you there, but I believe you will find less traffic if you just go straight to our site.
so give again.
The website is www.mcsafevoting.com.
.com, okay. So that's to find out your voting precinct or polling place. And as Jason said, and most of those were nursing homes, I understand, and some schools chose not to continue to let you vote in there at that time. If you vote, if you have any problems in voting, the number I would advise you to call is 1-866-OUR-VOTE. That is a number that NAACP and other voting groups have been promoting for years. and it's just 1-866-OUR VOTE, and that will be a legal person, and they will help you resolve that problem. So if you run into any problems, and I assume the Board of Election will also take calls, but if you run into any problem and you want to talk to a legal person, the number to call is 1-866-OUR VOTE. What about the Board of Election, Jason?
Yeah, we take calls all day on election day. So most of the morning and the beginning of the afternoon are basically troubleshooting calls that we take. So you can give us a call at 937-225-5656, and we'll be gladly help you resolve any problems that you have.
Okay. So the Board of Election number is 937-225-5656. Or you can, if you have really, and I would assume, because the thing I've learned about boards of election, and our boards of elections specifically, they operate in a nonpartisan way. Their goal is to make sure our votes count. And we have one of the best boards of election in the state. You know, they have highly respected credentials, and most of the people across the state look to Montgomery County as a model Board of Elections. So I would say over the years I've been engaged with the Montgomery County Board of Election. They've done a fantastic job. And so I would call our board at 937-225-5656. But if you really also have a legal question, someone calls you about something, even on election day or leading up to it, it's 1-866-OUR VOTE. 1-866-OUR VOTE. Go ahead.
And then the last thing on that is any information that you need that you can do without calling us is all on that website. So the MC Safe Voting, mcsafevoting.com. That's just a straight link to the Montgomery County Board of Elections website. All the information that you need is right there on that first page. It's in tabs. You just tab down. You can check whether you're registered. You can check where you go vote at. You can check whether your absentee ballot has been received, whether your absentee ballot has been mailed. All that is on that website. So if you find that the calls are taking time to be answered, you can always go to the website and look that information up.
That's a good point, because I was going to ask you about that. So you can actually track your application. You can actually track your ballot. So if you're worried about, did they receive my application? If you're worried later on after you mail it in, did they receive my ballot? You can use that Montgomery County site to actually track it. It's
Yes.
critical for you to track that.
It will even tell you if there was problems with the application or with the ballot itself. So it's a great source. We shortened the address just so it would be more that you can remember like easier. But all the information that you need is on that site.
Okay, and so those are ways for us to make sure that you feel comfortable, and I feel comfortable with the Board of Election. But if you need to just check it out, use either website, use the Montgomery County website to get your answers to your questions. Several groups have asked, and you really have to determine, as I tell people here at the church, I've been at home since March, and rarely have I come out into a crowd. The largest crowd I've been in since March was 20 people, and that was at the Peace Museum. But I've not been into a crowd larger than 20 people since March the 11th or 12th. So if people are still worried about that, as Jason has pointed out, we're trying to make the polling place on Election Day as safe and health for you as much as possible. If you are interested in doing your ballot, dropping them at the Board of Election, there's a drop box at the Board of Election that you can drop off your ballot. And I would encourage members here to do, as we've done in the past, souls to the polls. You know, go in groups. Go as a family to drop off the ballot at the Board of Election. Continue to do those kind of things. Or if you decide to go to the Board of Election, it's my understanding also at the Board of Election, there's safe distancing.
Yes.
We expect there to be some lines, but there's some safe distancing. And the other one is if you wanted to drop off your ballot at the Board of Election, that's a possibility as well.
Yes, and so the drop box is served not only as purpose for the applications, you can drop off the registration forms, you can drop off the ballots. We have 2 drop boxes currently down at the board. One is outside, it's on the side street called Vista View. It's parallel to 75 North. It's the cream-colored drop box. It's sitting right there up against the loading dock. If you decide to come in, there's another one that's located downstairs on the lower level right as you go into early voting.
What about, Jason, I think it's called curbside voting?
Curbside voting, yes. So,
Tell me more about that.
so we usually offer that for individuals who have problems coming into the polls. All you would just need to do is have a representative come in to either, we're offering it also downtown at the Board of Elections. So you'll just have someone come in, say you have someone who needs to be a curbside voter, 2 representatives, a Democrat and a Republican, will then walk out, will then get the information that's needed to get the ballot for them. They would then take them the ballot. The individual can vote the ballot there at the curb, and then we walk it in and treat it as same-day voting.
And where is it at the
It's on the-
county administration building?
On the side street, on the Vista View side with the loading dock, or with the drop box.
So we can do curbside voting at the Board of Election, the same place I drop off my ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
Got
And
a
that
question.
came up in a conversation the other day. I'd never heard of curbside voting. And so now we know you can vote at your polling place on election day with curbside voting. A D and the R will come out. Or you can do it at the Board of Election. Same place we drop off our ballots, the drop boxes. Currently, there's only 1 drop box per county. And so I would say, prepare yourselves for that. I don't want to discourage you. There may be long lines, but I don't want to discourage you from doing that, from voting at the Board of Election if you decide to use the drop box. The only point I also will make along those lines is the NAACP, working with groups in the community, will be doing Election Day rides to your precincts as we have done in the past. We're looking for church vans to help do that so we have some social distancing. So if you decide you want to get a ride to the poll on Election Day, call our office at 222-2172 at the NAACP office. We're also doing limited rides to the Board of Election. That's a much time-consuming process, but a person really wants to vote at the Board of Election and can't find anybody else to take them, we're going to have limited ways to get you there to the Board of Election. So that number, again, is 222-2172, area code 937.
Got 2 questions, Tom.
2172. And there was a final one that I was going to tell you, but I forgot it. We also will have available to us some bus passes. And that's the way I would really encourage people who don't have transportation. We have church captains working with our sororities and fraternities across the Miami Valley or across West Dayton, the African-American community. They'll be distributing those bus passes to their congregations beginning Monday or Tuesday. And so if you know someone who really wants to go early vote at the Board of Election, we give them bus pass. They can come to our office or call our office or check with one of the sororities, you know, a soror or a, what do you call a fraternity brother?
frat.
A frat, there you go, frat. He would be able, or she would be able to give you that bus pass as well. So, bus passes, rides to the poll by the NAACP. The number to call is 937-222-2172. And while I'm in the form of announcements, tomorrow, Monday, the 28th, NAACP Candidates Night. And you can listen to the candidates running for office by tuning into our Facebook site. We will have the candidates for Congress, the 6 candidates for state representative, the 4 candidates for county commission, county auditor, county treasurer, clerk of courts on the form tomorrow. So the one way you could do this is by at 6:30 or 6:45, go onto the NAACP website and you could hear the candidates forum tomorrow evening. It's one thing for us to be registered to vote, but the second thing is to be informed voters. And that's what we intend to do, is to inform you about who's running for office and what office they're running for. Another way of informed voting is the League of Women Voters Voting Guide. Should be coming out soon, and I'll try to keep you all abreast as to when that is coming out. If there are any League women listening, just let me know now, I can announce it. If not, I will let you know when I send out the other information. I'll let you know when that voter's guide. But that's also a nonpartisan way of letting you know the issues, the candidates, so you are an informed voter. Not only are we to be registered voters, but we have to be informed voters.
Got two questions, Tom.
Okay, we got two questions.
First one, those who come to the county building for voting at the Board of Elections, will there be passes, parking passes?
Okay, did you hear that?
Yes, we do validate parking, so if you come
And
down to the
so the
board.
question is, those who come to the Board of Election, will there be parking passes? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Jason.
yes, once you complete your voting, you'll get your I voted sticker and a parking pass to get out the garage.
Okay,
The second question is not doing absentee, however, would like to see ballot before going to the elections. Do you know if the ballots will be put online?
The ballot, the sample ballot, it will be online as well. So if you go to the mcsafevoting.com, they post all sample ballots for whatever precincts you're living in.
but I think maybe the question is, how do I get ballots?
How do you get ballots?
A ballot,
As far as,
the actual ballot. In other words, I cannot go online and get a ballot.
no, that's not an actual ballot. It'll say sample, it'll be stamped sample. It will actually, there will be wording on there to let you know that that's a sample
And
ballot.
so the only way to get the ballot is to have it mailed to you from the Board of Election, actually go to the Board of Election and vote, or go to the precinct on election day to vote.
Right.
It's the only way I get a ballot.
Right, the markings on the ballot will identify what precinct you live in. So you technically can't just walk in without an official ballot and vote a ballot. The machine won't take it.
Yeah, and so that's critical for you to know. What you see online is a sample ballot. And look, think of it this way. We don't have the same state representatives all over the county. There are 5 state representatives, and there's 1 senatorial race. And so that ballot will be unique to that district, that voting district. And here's what I just learned in the last couple of years, is that the West Dayton has 2 state representatives. The city of Dayton has 3 state representatives. And so Montgomery County has 5. So you have to make sure you get the ballot specific to your state representative's district. You may have countywide everything else, but that district will be different for that state rep and that state senator. Any more questions, Kenny?
Oh,
Okay.
one other thing, so since you're promoting, I guess I'll go ahead and promote poll workers.
Go ahead.
So we do need individuals to sit inside the poll on election day and monitor and serve the public. If that's an option that you choose to pick, we recommend that you call 937-225-5656, and we will get you started
And so those are people that actually work at the poll on election day.
on election day, yes.
There's a small fee,
I believe it's like, at the end of the day, I believe it's like $145, 25 for training and $120 for the day.
but they do have to be trained.
Yeah, you will have to take a day of training.
Okay, so fill out the application, there'll be a training, and then at the end of the day, by check, they'll be mailed by check.
Correct, you'll get mailed by check. It won't be at the end of the day, it'll be whatever the pay cycle, you will fall onto the county's pay cycle.
Yeah, so you fall into the county pay cycle, and you'll receive a check in a few weeks for that day working at the board, at your polling place. I don't see any questions. Marvin, do you see anything, or is there anything you'd like for me to try to address before we end? Marvin? Yeah. Is there anything that you think I need to address before we end?
I don't see any other questions.
Okay, do you see any, can you think of anything that
See
we,
any?
Anything you need for us to address that we haven't addressed, or you put your questions in the Zoom group chat,
I don't have anything else.
okay?
Just a reminder that if you do come down to the administration building, masks are required.
And that's a good point. And also the voting place, right? On
Yeah,
the precinct.
we have masks, so if you don't have one, we will give you one. So, but masks are required.
So again, the answer to a question is wear a mask. If you vote the Board of Election, or if you go to your precinct on election day, wear a mask. Masks are mandatory. Well, must or is it mandatory?
It's a must.
Okay, and they'll give you one if you don't. And so it sounds like the Secretary of State and the boards of election are pushing to wear a mask. And if they're gonna give you a style or a pencil to go home with, that's how serious they're taking your safety, and so we should be just as safe. Kenny?
Yeah, Tom, I was just going to say, if you could, I think it would be important to reiterate what's involved and what's required to register to vote. And then after that, what happens and what you need to have should you decide to vote in person.
Okay, so what do I
Too
do?
often, people, I believe, don't understand that there are some things that are different in terms of registering to vote and when you go to the polls. So I think to reiterate that, and the deadline for registering to vote is coming up. So if folks are still trying to decide what they're going to do and are not sure,
Right.
they need to at least make sure that they are registered, and then after that,
So why don't
there
you
may
take all those, Jason, last day to register to vote, what people need to, what information they need to register to vote, and what they need to take to the board, or to board, to your precinct to vote on election day.
All right, so, to register to vote or to update any registration, all you just need is a simple registration form. You can get those by either contacting us, we'll mail them to you, or like I said, if you're just updating your registration, you can do that on on the website of on the voteohio.gov website. That will update it throughout the, state, computers, and then it sits in a queue, and when we pull it in, we then process it into our systems. The registration form itself is a simple form. It basically has approximately 14 spots to fill out. Not all 14 are required, but I will give you I will tell you what we are looking for. The first two items that we look for are questions 1 and 2, which ask, are you a U.S. citizen, and will you be 18 by the general election? Those two have to be marked yes for that application to even proceed. Then we look for your name. We'll put you in by your name. We need your residential address. That's where you want to be registered. That's where you are residing, and where you are registered to vote at. That's where you sleep, where you lay your head at night, where you get your mail. That's where your residence. You put that down. Your date of birth is mandatory. We need to know when you were born. Your identifier that we also use is your state identification, your driver's license, or your state ID. If you have neither one of them, then you need to provide the last 4 of your social security number. And then the last mandatory field that we have is that you sign the form. Once we get this into our hands, we process this. We then notify you that we process any changes to your registration. We'll send you an acknowledgement. Usually about a week or so after we process it, you'll get an acknowledgement saying you were updated in our system. Here's what we updated. Here's where you vote. On the day of election, again, you have to have on the day of election, even early voting, you need to bring some form of identification. That identification is not there to match against the information in the system. It's there to verify that that individual is you. If you do not have that photo information, then the bill is what represents you. When you sign in, you usually scan in the barcode of the identification. It populates the said voter's information. We then ask you to verify your residency. You verify your residency, we look at the picture to verify it's you. We then ask you what style of ballot do you want. The style of ballot is either a digital ballot, which is what you use the machine to mark, or the manual ballot, which is what you would take a pen and a piece of paper and you'll fill in the ovals like you were taking a standard test for college, grade school, anything. Upon completion of those forms, you then will walk your form over to what we call the submit station or the acceptor. You submit it into the box. It looks like a trash can. You feed it into there. It will then tell you whether or not that ballot has been casted. If it's casted, you will see it vote cast. You'll hear it drop. We'll give you your I voted sticker, and you've completed your process.
So each voter will have two options, either the paper ballot or the pushing the,
Or the machine ballot.
Okay, I
yes.
didn't know that.
Yes, that's an option. That's always been an option. So you don't always have to use the machine. That's the paper is the secondary, is the backup option if you choose.
Question.
and so there will be social distancing there.
So, to be clear, you cannot register online and you cannot vote online.
You
You can register.
You can register online as long as you've been registered previously. So if you've been registered in Montgomery County, moved to Greene County, and then want to come back to Montgomery County, you can do that online. The system reads all county information. So
Well, let me answer that. So if have never been a registered voter, I can't register online.
No.
How do I get registered? Various groups who are walking around registering people, what are some of the options?
you would need to, the only way you can register a new registration was paper ballot. So however you go about the process of doing that, through registration drives, again, through the library, through updating through the BMV, contacting us to get the information. You can download the actual registration form off of the website itself. You fill it in, it's self-populated, you print it out, and then you sign it and you mail it back to us.
Okay.
Those are the simplest forms to get registered.
So, in other words, to register to vote, you need a hard copy to send in.
Originally.
Originally. To send in to the Board of Election.
Yes, or if you're doing a name change, because we need that signature on file.
And another way of doing that, if you're already a registered voter, it's my understanding that the Bureau of Motor Vehicles
Yes.
is making some of those changes up front now.
Correct. So there's a relationship between the BMV and the Secretary of State. So if you have an updated signature through the BMV, it will update it with us as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we do there's a lot of relationship between the BMV and the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
And then voting online is a no. There are cases where you are, but you would have to be active duty military for that.
So the bottom line is there's no way to vote online. You have to send the ballot in, you have to show up at you mail it in or you do in the drop box the ballot. You have to go to the Board of Election or go to your precinct on election day. Those are the ways to cast your ballot. So don't be confused in that regards. Kenny, we're right at the 3 o'clock hour. Do you think there's more?
I just would close it out if I were you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, I want to thank Marvin and Kenny and Victor for helping set this up, and Mary, as well as Susan Smith for helping set this up for us today. If you have any questions, you can call me directly at 478-7895, or the NAACP office if you have any questions at 222-2172. And of course, Jason gave you the Montgomery County Board of Election number, which is 937-225-5656. This is a critical election. And I think, as I heard someone talk about the other day, we tend to focus on the presidential, but we have members who represent us in Congress, in the State House, and in City Hall, and so that's the county. And so we need to spend some time making sure we vote those ballots from the top to the bottom. We have judicial races that we need to. Those judges represent us and make some difficult decisions on our behalf. So don't skip the judicial races. Let me see, there's one. Yeah, and that was one I was going to ask you, Jason. The question is, how is the signature valid if someone has had an illness? And their signatures have been changed?
So we understand through time, signatures change. We update signatures during each any information you send to us, whatever that signature is on that form at that time is the updated signature which we take. We understand that some of the elderly only make marks, just make their mark. Just make their mark. One question that we do get quite a bit is I have a power of attorney. A power of attorney, if it does not specify voting rights, it does not have any effect with us. You would then need to just contact us. We can get you the necessary paperwork to either get the power of attorney notarized or through a physician. But if the power of attorney does not specify their voting rights, then they still have the right to vote their own ballot.
And along those lines, only you can turn in your ballot, or a close family member. And that is narrowly defined, right?
Yeah, so it will be on the ID envelope when you get your absentee ballot. It defines very close relative, and I think I like to use the 1 degree separation of grandma. Is basically what it is. Is your mother, your grandmother, your uncle. It's a close relative is very vague. It's not vague. It's ID, but it's usually 1 degree of separation.
Okay. And that's critical because I know many groups are helping collect the application,
Right.
but only you could send that application in. That's why I'm saying hop in the car and go as a family to the Board of Election and drop in the ballot. So there's no question.
Yeah. No ballot harvesting.
No what?
No ballot harvesting.
No ballot harvesting, okay? For those of you who don't know, and unless there's some more questions, I'm going to thank you all. Jason is Ann Miller's grandson, and so he's a member of St. Benedict's, but he
I'm
also...
Susie Roberts' grandson too.
Yes, right. He reminds me he's my mother's grandson as well. Yeah, sorry about that, Ms. Roberts. So he's at the Board of Election, and he's been helpful to us. I know he and Kenny are missing something called football today, and I know they both want to get back to whatever team they're rooting for.
You can close it out.
And so I thank you for joining me and joining Jason and me this afternoon. Again, if you have any questions, I gave you the phone numbers in my first closing, but this is critical, and I'm available to help you get to the polls, help you understand the voting process. With that, Marvin and Kenny, I thank you, and I'm going to sign off.